You're watching the Battered Fans Network.
Did soccer discover America, or did America finally discover soccer? Either way, soccer is here in a big way, and it's here for good.
1996 was truly an historic year for the sport of soccer.
Flashbulbs everywhere because the Beckham era has begun at last.
It's officially official. Signed today, Lionel Messi, Inter Miami. He's in Major League Soccer.
Underway. Major League Soccer has begun.
No question about it. I am ready to get hurt again.
Welcome, everybody, to episode number 1 of the Battered MLS Fans podcast. I am your host, Daniel Granada, and I will have a group of other MLS podcasters and content creators moving forward every week. You'll probably recognize them if you keep up with the MLS, and today, even some Liga Mx personalities. So I'm going to start first with somebody, if you are familiar with the Battered Fans, somebody that you will recognize very quickly. Mr. Tommy One Time, thank you for joining us on episode number 1, sir.
Can't wait to 98. Let's get to 98. Then we're on our way.
All right, so we got Tommy representing Atlanta from Scarves and Spikes, and then we have another familiar face that joined us. I mean, this year they eliminated Inter Miami from Champions Cup. Eddie from Monterrey Rajados. How you doing, Eddie?
Oh man, great. Just relive some good memories right there.
Yeah, yeah, that was. No, it wasn't as fun for me, but.
Thank you for
joining us. Yeah, thank you for joining us. And then we're supposed to have 2 more guests, but we do have 1 more that's a new guest to the Battered Fans Network, Kari Torres from Leon, right? Leon is the team that you cover.
Yes, Club Leon.
Club Leon. Thank you for joining, Kari. We're talking Leagues Cup, but before we get to Leagues Cup, I did want to touch on something that's going on at this moment, and that would be the MLS All-Star game. And just real quick, just shout out to everybody that's joining us so far in the chat. Best kid on the panel is Danny. I think you're a little biased. I think Hammy might be an Inter Miami fan. But yes. So before we get into Leagues Cup, I wanted to talk MLS All-Star game. We just got on the MLS All-Star Skills Challenge. Just ended, I think, because I stopped watching. Did anybody watch the Skills Challenge? No. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
One event. I just watched one.
Yeah, I watched the first one also, and then I don't know. I gave up. Are you gonna watch the All-Star game tomorrow?
I don't have Apple TV, so I'm gonna have to wait till next week if they come out with a free code or something for us out here, so I can watch Leagues Cup. So I'm waiting on that for next week.
Do they have like just a Leagues Cup package? I wonder. So you don't have to pay for the whole thing.
Last year they did like a free trial, like a free 30-day trial for like people who live in Mexico that want to watch Leagues Cup and can't have that access. So that's what we did. So that's what I was able to do last year. But I don't know if they're going to do that this year. So maybe I'm going to have to pay for that.
Okay, and and then Eddie doesn't look like he's interested at all. Well,
no, I mean,
my question was going to be: does anybody care to watch that?
Nah, I mean that's how I feel about NBA, NFL, Pro Bowl. Like I don't care for All-Star games. That's just me personally.
Well, me either. But the thing is, with football, it's nowhere in the world, except for here. But Mexico, does Liga MX do anything like this when it's not including it with the MLS?
No.
So they just do it when the MLS decides to invite them.
Yeah.
Like
Pretty much.
I don't know why they don't just do away with the whole thing. And then real quick, we have Edgar, our final guest, finally joining us. So let me just bring on Edgar. Edgar, what's going on,
everyone?
Man?
Oh, man, it's so nice to see some old friends in here. Tommy and Kari, what's up?
Hello.
Howdy.
Oh, Eddie, he threw shade your way because he knows you like LAFC.
Eddie, I didn't know. I see that it's a Rayado shirt you got there.
Yeah.
Hey, arriba la América.
Well, Edgar, since I got you on there,
sure.
MLS All-Star game. Should they just scrap the whole idea already?
I am a purist when I say I wanted the old East versus West format. I do know what they're trying to do as far as having Liga MX involved, but I feel like it kind of interrupts the Liga MX season at this point. And there's been a lot of interruptions already when you take into account like all the
Leagues Cup.
international breaks and everything else going on. I feel like the teams at this point are focusing on trying to get their season going and then having to stop and be like, okay, hold on. Let's send some of our best players up, to play this game, which conceivably it's not supposed to be that way, but you never know. They could get hurt, right? Somebody could pull a hamstring trying to hit that target, that AT&T target there, or somebody could slip and fall somewhere like walking onto the field. You never know. Freak accidents, right? Maybe Sheamus on WWE decides to attack someone. I don't know. Maybe saying the Bill doesn't like somebody, right? I'm just saying. I just feel like it's not that I don't think I don't want the sentiment to be that Liga MX is not welcome, because I welcome any involvement with Liga MX, especially in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. But I just feel like this is a little bit too much. We already have the Leagues Cup, which, God, I know Kari and I talked about this before, right? Regarding Leagues Cup, but
I'm looking forward to
we're getting more Leagues Cup now, and I feel like when you start to look at all this involvement between MLS and Liga MX, it goes back to those whispers, and you start to look at the tea leaves that eventually Don Garber wants to have a big league, right? With Mexico and the United States and Canada all just lumped together into the.
You think that's what he wants?
Why not? He makes a lot of money. Take this big old. It's like taking like that Play-Doh. You get the red Play-Doh, the green Play-Doh, and the blue one. You smash it all together, and you get this gray mess. It's not ugly. I mean, it's not pretty. It's kind of ugly, but it's Play-Doh, I guess. Maybe you could make some dough out of it. I see where I went there.
No, I think what he wants to do is he wants to go 32 teams. I think he wants to go the NFL route with 32 teams. But look, I'm with everybody. The All-Star game, if you want to do it, just keep it East-West, simple, and just move on. I don't even think it's necessary, honestly. But I did want to move off of that and then talk about the Leagues Cup. Now, Kari, I'm going to come to you real quick because I have a question for you.
Okay.
Before we get to Leagues Cup, everybody's up in arms because the MLS is trying to get out of the U.S. Open Cup. Now, Liga MX got rid of they aren't doing the domestic cup anymore.
No.
How do Liga MX fans, or you yourself, and then I'll ask Eddie afterwards, how do you guys feel about the fact that they did away with the domestic cup?
It's hard to answer because I feel like the majority of people don't really care. And then there's a few fans that kind of look at it retrospectively after kind of what's been going on with La Selección Mexicana, what's been going on with our production of youth players feeding into the national team and all that stuff. And, obviously then you have the Copa Libertadores is gone too. And kind of like, well, what other tournaments? And then they look back, they're like, oh, well, there was Copa MX. What happened to that? But the thing with Copa MX, the format, it was just too long. It was, the first and the second leg, and it did disrupt a bit the schedule of Liga MX. But I actually enjoyed watching the Copa MX games because I was like, oh, my team, plays again, and they play against this, Ascenso team, and you never know in those games what could happen, which was pretty exciting. So I think there's a large percentage of Liga MX fans that maybe at the time didn't care, and now that things are kind of maneuvering different directions with looking for tournaments and how we can continue to produce, I think they're like, oh, well, we did have Copa MX, but what happened to it? It didn't work out. Obviously, they did not include the Liga de Premier in that, so it was just Liga MX and Ascenso. But so I feel sometimes a certain way that I have to watch what I say, but I think Mexico as a country needs to find a better way in the next couple of years because I think we're falling behind and we need to have some domestic, competitividad entre our teams. So
right. I'm gonna just Richard Greenberg saying that I'm missing the Inter Miami versus Miami FC match. I'm not a big fan of the domestic cup, the U.S. Open Cup, because I'm not a big fan of Inter Miami going and playing against Alabama, Birmingham, or one of these random where you play in a football high school stadium. Like, I'm not a big fan of that. If you let the MLS Pro guys play, then I'm all for it. But come on, I don't want to see the Yankees play against the Jumbo Shrimp. Like, it's like the only sport where we want to watch the pros play against the minors, and I don't get it. Eddie, Liga MX, no domestic cup. How did you feel about it?
That's pretty much what I'm gonna echo what Kari said. I always enjoyed it. I always liked seeing my team go up and play against random. When Juarez was in second division, you had Indios, you had all these random teams that I enjoyed, and the sole purpose of that cup was to see some young players, and I like keeping up with players that are I'm not following the youth system, but you can hear whispers of like this kid's playing well. So I always like that aspect of seeing young players to see if they can make that jump. I have a close affiliation with like the players that that came up through that Copa MX, like Cesar Montes, Charlie Rodriguez, and all those players. So, but that's pretty much it. I always like seeing those random matchups and just seeing the young players get their chance to play at least 90 minutes and impress.
Can I, before I go to Tommy, can I answer one thing? Because Sujan here is saying might as well scrap the FA Cup in England. Mr. Krabs is saying England might as well get rid of the FA Cup. I believe there's a difference. Okay, the size of our country doesn't. I don't care about Alabama, Birmingham, but in England, you literally have like 1 billion teams in just London, and they're playing against each other. And those neighborhoods care about those games. Like, it's different. Like, I don't care about Pittsburgh. Like, I don't. I understand why it's such a big draw in England, because it's such a small place. There's like 1 million teams, and they're all literal rivals because they all play in the same places. Here, I don't feel it. But again, I'm okay staying in it if we could just let the MLS Pro guys play. Tommy, what do you have to say before we go over to Edgar?
I hate your take on this 100%.
I know.
We've had arguments about this.
Yes.
It's the magic of the cup. It gives teams another opportunity. I know that Leagues Cup is here now, but the magic of the cup is great. Like, back then it used to be on ESPN, so you could watch like 8 games at once if you wanted, and like that was what the sickos did, and I was one of those. Winning it that year was great, but the past couple years, for Atlanta, they've lost against lower level teams. They were in the semifinals, the quarterfinals, and they lost against Indy 11. Like, I'm sure 99% of the country has never even heard of the Indy 11 ever. Yeah. But like,
they might get into the MLS supposedly.
Well, yeah, maybe one day. But like, either way, like if I was an Indy 11 fan and I did that, absolutely, I'd be going crazy. But what you're saying though is that some teams don't take it seriously. I was upset because it was a quarterfinal. Atlanta's season's terrible. Here's an opportunity for them to win a trophy, at least get the fans pumped for something because it's been a bad season, and they sat a couple of their good players. They thought they had enough to get in there, and they lost. And that's like, when do teams take it? Some teams take it very seriously. I think the LAFC, their lineup looked pretty solid when they were in it. But some teams, even if you're in the quarterfinals, you don't take it seriously. I understand your part there is like, when do teams really go all in on a tournament?
Edgar.
Yes, sir.
I saw you nodding ferociously when I was giving my take. So what's your take on the U.S. Open Cup?
I love the U.S. Open Cup, but then again, I'm a football historian in this country. I went back and I looked at this rich history of this Open Cup tournament. It's one of the oldest football tournaments on the Western Hemisphere. Went from the very first team, the Brooklyn Field Club, up until Houston Dynamo last year. It's a beautiful tournament. I like the fact that you have this history that has been the thread that unites all the different football eras of the United States into one long history. I always say, I always tell the guys in our podcast, I tell some of the people in other podcasts that what we're doing right here as podcasters, whether it's MLS or Liga Mx, We're in a way or another, we're journalists, and we're chronicling and we're documenting the history of our sport, in our different ways. And there's only one league that I've ever seen that really does a good job of that, and that's Major League Baseball, which is why people always talk with such reverence of players like Babe Ruth and Joe DiMaggio and Jackie Robinson, because they do such a good job of selling the history of that league. And what way to sell the history of this league than talking about some of the great figures that have been part of U.S. soccer across all its many eras? It's time to embrace the U.S. Open Cup for what it is. But the thing is, MLS isn't really doing that, and it's not the fans' fault. It's not the team's fault. It's look who's in charge, Don Garber. He doesn't care because he sees more dollar bills with League's Cup. Now, you said it doesn't matter to small teams. Let me counteract that.
No. I think it matters to small teams. I don't think it matters to the big teams.
Oh, it does matter. And I'll tell you why. Okay, my wife's in North Carolina, right? She's from North Carolina. And the few times I do go visit over there, I went and hung out with some of the local fans, whether it's North Carolina FC, back when they were the Carolina Railhawks. And I remember I bought the jersey. I went and bought the scarf. I hung out with the fans. I loved it. Football at the ground roots level. And whenever they would go into the U.S. Open Cup, I think for like 3 years in a row, they ended up playing against the LA Galaxy, right? So it was funny, right? Like to go against them. And every single time they beat the Galaxy, right? The first 2 times, Galaxy sent like a really bad roster, and the Railhawks won. And then the final time, Bruce Arena's like, that's it, we're gonna send all our big guns. And they went down there and they still lost. And that was a huge deal for the Carolina fans, right? Now, staying with the Carolina thing, when I heard that they were shifting over to North Carolina FC and they wanted to try to draw MLS over to the Triangle, I became one of the people that invested into that team. It didn't happen, but I also love the game so much that I remember I ended up becoming a season ticket member with Appalachian FC, although I haven't been to Boone since 2003. But I ended up giving away my season ticket package to a fan, and the team ended up sending me a kit. And I remember following this team as they were going through, their season. And then when they got into the Open Cup tournament, this small little tiny community up in the Appalachian Mountains went absolutely crazy for the Open Cup. And every time they won a game, they celebrated like it was the 4th of July. And this is one of the things I love about this, because you can grow the sport in the small little corners of this country and give them an opportunity to go up against a big team, just grows it even more. And do you really think somebody living up in the hillbilly area of North Carolina is going to give a damn about soccer? Well, now they do, because of this. You grow the sport in these little areas, and eventually it's going to happen. It's going to grow into something bigger, and these people are going to become more aware of the sport. And that's just one thing I love about the Open Cup, because you have stories like Farolito out in Northern California. You have Sacramento FC knocking up some big teams on the way to playing against Orlando. And then, of course, I remember I was living in Kansas at the time when Rochester took down the Colorado Rapids to win that Open Cup in 1999. That was big news even back then. So, yeah, I am all for the Open Cup. And I support all the fans from both St. Louis City and Columbus, and maybe some other MLS fans that are stepping up and talking to the front offices so they can try and get their teams back into the tournament. And I'm trying my best to encourage Galaxy fans to do the same.
Okay. Well, I see Tommy loves it. Like I said, I'm okay keeping the U.S. Open Cup. I think they just need to expand the rosters. So that, look, if we can get a bunch of the young guys from the MLS Next to play in most of the beginning games, and then once you start hitting the quarterfinals, semifinals, I have no problem with it. I've never been a fan of the whole pro versus minor league system, especially. And I know that everybody talks about Cinderella stories, and I know Sacramento made it to the final and lost to Orlando. But like, what was the last time that a non-MLS team won that tournament? Like, I get what you're saying. Oh, that was the last time?
Yeah, Rochester Raging Rhinos. Yeah.
It's happened only one time. Well, I get that it's a possibility, but I'm not a big fan. But I see a lot of people in the chat also agree with you. So there you go. All right.
Danny, I was going to say, do you remember a couple years ago that there were rules that like you could only have like certain amount of international players. So like you had to, if you wanted your good lineup in there, like you had to like move it around. You could only have like X amount of international players in your roster per week, per game. And it was ridiculous, like trying to figure out who you could fit in there. at times like that. And then they got rid of that, I think maybe 2 years ago. But it was
Can I
ridiculous.
can I give you a quick analogy, and then I'm gonna go back to Kari about the Leagues Cup. A lot of people talk about the Cinderella story and about how they love the Cinderella story, and a lot of people point to the NCAA March Madness, the Cinderella story, and all that other stuff. And I get it, right? But that's Division 1 versus Division 1, so it makes sense to me. I don't know why. I don't know why. Like,
You
why am I
can't
gonna
compare a Pac-12 with like a small little MAC team out in the middle of nowhere, or an SEC team against some small team from like the Southern Conference. So it is a big deal when they win, because you got to remember
that's who fills up their schedule.
Like you got to take, like, you talk like a Duke, right? A UNC, and me, I'm a big Kansas fan. I live in Kansas, right? And those teams get a ton of money to build their program. So when you have a small team from a small school come up and knock one of them off, it is a big deal. They might all be in Division 1, but you got to look at where they're coming from. They're coming from small schools with small funding, and they're knocking off the big dude. And we love that. That's one of the things why it's called March Madness, baby.
Have this guy run Open Cup. Have Edgar run the entire tournament. He has sold me. I hope. And Danny, you just can't change.
No,
Edgar gave a beautiful novel here.
You know why? I'm gonna tell you why. When the Open Cup is happening, the stadiums are empty. Nobody's into it. They like the idea of it. They like that they can go on Wikipedia and look up the history, but they don't actually like attending or watching it. And that's my problem with the U.S. Open Cup. If people got behind it and actually attended the games and cared about them, that's one thing. But everybody likes to wax poetic, but they don't show up. They don't care about it. Like they say they do, but they don't. And people like Edgar might, but the majority don't.
I'll tell you why. real quick. Sorry to interject, man. I don't mean to interject too much.
No, go.
Get him. Many years ago, I was at Dignity Health Sports Park because I was going to interview some U.S. men's national team's players, and Eric Winalda was there. And yes, Eric Winalda is a polarizing figure. He talks out of his ass and he says some really weird shit, right? But that particular day, he told me something interesting. He was scratching his head or something, and I went up to him and started talking to him, and he started telling me like, hey, don't you ever wonder why the U.S. men's national team isn't in a better state than they are before? And he started talking about pay to play, right? And he said, I come from a well-to-do family out in Westlake Village, which is a nice neighborhood here in Southern California. And he said, my family could afford for me to play club football. And eventually I got into the U.S. men's national team along with other guys that also came from well-to-do families. Once in a while, you have a guy like a Clint Dempsey whose family had to fight and claw and scratch to get them into these clubs, right? But the underlying theme was pay to play, right? Now we take that idea and we start talking about why the U.S. Open Cup doesn't get the shine that it deserves. It's because it doesn't get the level of marketing. Now, if U.S. Soccer was smart about it, they would take some funding and leak it down to these teams and start marketing it in a much better way. You don't have to go all out with some kind of like crazy, movie style commercial. Just start marketing it and embrace the grassroots feel of it so that fans feel a sense of investment and ownership in this tournament from the grassroots up. You start presenting it like that, and people will embrace it. They do that with baseball all the time. Look, just last month, they had that baseball game down in Alabama talking about how the Negro Leagues, was such an important, part of the history of baseball in that part of the country, and it caught a lot of eyes. Tommy, didn't you hear about that? I'm sure a lot of people here in the U.S. heard about that. It was a big deal, right? And if baseball didn't take the time to market themselves like that, nobody would have paid attention to that game. Because it's just like a baseball game in the middle of the week in the middle of nowhere, Alabama, right?
Right.
But people paid attention because you market it, because you find a smart way to sell it to people so that they're going to be invested. And like I said, the most important thing when marketing to people is to show them how they're connected to something and to sell it to them and make them feel a sense of ownership.
We're going to have this conversation on another show, because I think we can go back and forth about this for an hour. Because I hate the Open Cup that much, but I would love to keep going with that. But let's get Eddie and Kari back involved. Kari, Eddie, the League's Cup starts on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you guys were part of it, obviously, last year. Last year, I thought it was a big success. I think one of the reasons is obvious, but it was a huge success. I thought it was must-watch TV. I thought it ended up doing a lot better than people expected. What did you think of last?
In what way, though? Like
popularity, viewership. Now, the whole Mexico not hosting games. I thought that was the biggest downfall.
That's my problem. That's my problem. Yeah.
But as far as viewership and popularity, I thought because of the whole Messi thing and it's a brand new tournament, I thought it did well. But maybe you disagree. What do you think about last year's Leagues Cup?
Wait, God, wasn't Leon like stuck in Canada? Was it Leon that they were stuck there?
We were stuck in an airport and there was like no flights out. And, I think the biggest thing, and Eddie can agree with, just if you're making it a Liga Mx and MLS, thing, then why can't we host? You know what I mean? I think that they say, oh, well, the money is in MLS, but, I think, what was it? You got like a Mazatlán versus a Querétaro, like in the middle of nowhere. Well, the coast, there wasn't going to be any fans, right? They bring that game in Mexico, they're going to, the stadiums are going to fill up. So that was my biggest problem because obviously MLS teams had the advantage of being in the comfort of their homes, with family and driving up, to their game day and all that. Well, we had all the Liga MX teams, struggling to make flights, to go to sleep, to make sure they eat, to all this other stuff. So when I mean success, what do you mean in what way? Because I think,
with viewership.
Well, I mean, they did it strategically, right? Like if you didn't have Apple TV, you could not watch it, right?
Right.
And obviously, like I had mentioned, like, well, out here in Mexico, we had to, I needed to watch my team, and I needed to do what I needed to do. So yes, obviously, my low-key theory obviously is all set up for Messi, but that could be another can of worms I don't want to open. So
I would love for you to open that. But real quick, I'm gonna let you keep going. We had Fabian Ranquel on earlier. No, I'm sorry. We had Tom Bogart. Was it Fabian or Tom Bogart? One of the two. I can't remember who. Maybe somebody in the chat that was watching can remember. One of the two, we were talking Leagues Cup, and one of the two, I forget which of the two it was, told us that Liga MX wanted the games to be played in the United States.
Of course they do, because it comes to, yes, but I'm talking as a fan, right? I'm talking
100%. I got you. Understand. Okay, understood.
When it comes to the owners, obviously they see ka-ching, ka-ching, bling, 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 right? So that's their biggest interest. Obviously, Eddie can agree, right? Yep.
Oh, but Eddie's just sour though. But yeah, okay.
By the way, just to add to something that I thought came to me, let's not ignore the fact that the NBA and Major League Baseball love hosting special games down in Mexico, and they make a big deal about it. Yeah. Why can't you do the same for the Leagues Cup? Just be like, hey, promote the hell out of it, and be like, hey, you get to watch MLS down here in Mexico. And
I'm gonna tell you one thing: they didn't do right this year either, because you're still not hosting games in Mexico. But I feel like they took at least a slight step in at least giving you some type of home field advantage. But I think it's like, was it 4 or 6 teams are hosting games in Texas and California, so that it's not in the home of whoever it is that you're playing. Like, for example, Inter Miami's playing against Tigres in Houston, so it's like technically like a home game, right?
They have a huge following there, yeah.
So
we're hosting Chivas Guadalajara. Let me tell you, that's listed as a home game, and it is going to be a home game for Chivas in LA.
So again,
But that's with the big teams. That's what the big teams, right?
Right, exactly.
What about the lower teams?
The Leons.
The Leon. Leon in California is good, and I've gone to Leon games in Dallas, and they have people. But overall, with the other teams, I think it's just a clear disadvantage. And when it comes to that, it's owners. Owners are like, oh, MLS is doing everything right. We'll say yes, and they'll organize everything, and we'll just follow. And that's pretty much what it is. And obviously, I think at the end of the tournament, there was, a couple complaints that were raised with kind of the refereeing, with some games here and there. And I was sat back like, well, what did you guys expect? Like I said, look, Danny, that whole Leagues Cup last year was for your team to win it. Yeah.
No.
See,
Look, there was a little messy
Sorry,
magic
Danny,
there.
but
Now,
yes.
I don't remember any specific events in which something outside of maybe it looking like I forgot who was from Dallas. It looked like they paid him off
Dude,
because
there
it looked
was
like
some
there was
weird
an own
goals scored
goal
in that game,
where
man.
it was like an
Very
own goal,
weird.
but it looked like he
Somebody's
headed it
check was
into
in
his
the
net.
mail. That's all I'm saying.
Outside of that, I don't see any conspiracy theories, but that goal was kind of weird. It did look like he was dying to get an assist for Messi. Once he saw it going, I'm like, I'm doing this. I'm taking this picture. I'm framing it. Even if it was an own goal, I got an assist from Messi. Eddie, same question as Kari. What did you think as far as a Monterrey Liga MX fan about Leagues Cup?
Pretty much, I'm gonna echo what Kari said. The logistics. Monterrey was like one of the worst teams that got like because they were traveling all over the place, and eventually like the wheels fell off in the semifinal. Like we lost Berterame, we lost like there were so many injuries that players were just falling left and right, and even after the tournament, they were falling left and right. I like the idea of the tournament. I just don't like that you jam it into 1 month, right? Like I like if this were they were to sell it as this was like here's a Carabao Cup. If they sell it sporting wise, and I get the financial, like, you know, not to open another can of worms, but Champions Cup doesn't pay you that much if you win the tournament. You get like $5 million, and then you look at Libertadores and they pay you like 20 million if you win that tournament. But if they were to say, hey, winner gets 10 to 15 million, okay, sign me up. Like that's fine. But I just don't like the logistics of jamming everything into 1 month. That's why I'm hoping my team just plays with, you know, a mixture of youth players and maybe some players that need some type of minutes, just because, you know, it's just too much for me. Like it's just too much jamming all these games into 1 month and some couple of weeks.
Well, especially when our league is just starting, and then, you know, some teams are kind of doing rocky. Like my team hasn't won a Liga Mx game, and now we have to pause to go play Leagues Cup.
You guys are like 3 games in, right?
4
games in. Okay.
Yeah. And then throw us in Leagues Cup, and who knows how it's going to spit us back out to you know, go back into Liga MX. And look, the only thing I want to say apart from that is obviously I think maybe not all fans think like me and Eddie. Maybe some fans think differently, and I think maybe those fans are the fans that, you know, are Liga MX, Spanish-speaking fans that are in the U.S. that maybe don't have the opportunity to come back, or maybe for any other reason to see their team play. So obviously, with the Leagues Cup game, if they see the opportunity, they're going to make that trip. They're going to go and they're going to support, and that's how our passionate Liga MX fans are. So to those people, they will go, you know, and I'm pretty sure, obviously, you know, like Chivas Monterrey, I'm like, if but a dad hasn't, you know, been able to see Monterrey, you know, play in Monterrey for X amount of time, and they're going to go to Cali. Well, they're going to make the trip out there, and they're going to see their team play. I mean, that's the reality of it.
No, 100%. Well, obviously, Liga MX fans weren't happy with Leagues Cup last year. Tommy, you guys got your ass kicked pretty good in the Leagues Cup also. How did you feel about Leagues Cup last year?
What an intro.
Well, I was right? Well, I was going to say what we were just saying about like how it's the start of your season. I mean, that's kind of like the Champions League, right? MLS is just starting
Cup,
up. Yeah. I mean, they have no basically any games in hand at all. They do preseason basically. They play a couple extra games, and they have to allow those teams like an extra couple weeks to go to, you know, training to get ready for that. So usually their first like big game is that to start the tournament. So that's always been, I mean, that's kind of now just opposite ways of looking at it. Both tournaments kind of set someone behind. Hi, Chris. Champions Leagues Leagues Cup is great. I mean, it's fine, but like to grow U.S. Cup and leagues, I was thinking about this. You need it to be on TV, like hiding it behind ESPN, which was where the U.S. Open Cup was. Then it was on Bleacher Report. When it went to Bleacher Report,
on YouTube?
It was on YouTube.
Yeah,
it was hidden behind like secret sites that you had to like click, give a sample of your blood, and retina eye scan to be able to get into it, because I couldn't find a way how to watch it one day on my Xbox.
I didn't know how to get them either.
It was impossible. Like, people like to go out and, like, even if you're just out at a bar with friends, be able to turn the game on and, like, have it there. Like, it interests you if there's a good game on. And hiding it behind all these random, you know, sites here. And, like, that's the problem that you have. And, like, you just saw with the NBA, Amazon offered for their TV deal, like as much money as TNT. You're really going to take the NBA away from bars? Like, all these bars aren't going to just be able to stream every single game on there. And the part of growing a sport, at least to me, is going out with friends, having a bunch of TVs on, like at a bar, if you're a bar goer, and just saying, oh, look at that game, it's close, let's watch it. And that might get just somebody into the game. And that's just a big part. I think that's just you're hiding this Leagues Cup behind. But Leagues Cup, I mean, I enjoyed it for Atlanta. Yeah, I mean, it comes at an absolute terrible time for them right now too, because it's the summer transfer window. Yeah, all their players left. They're in trouble for sure. But I like the concept of it. It's just it's a big transition time for MLS teams as well, because this is a big window for them, right? I mean, the summer window, better players are available. So they make spots open, and a lot of teams are in transition. So if your team's set, I think you're in a good set for this. Right. But for a lot of teams, that are having bad seasons, they're trying to rebuild, and you're screwed. Like, you guys got it done perfect time. Like, you got all your guys in right at that time last year, and you were set to go, right? That's not for a lot of teams.
But like what Eddie said, the congestion of this 1 month, it was horrible, because literally, we were looking at it 2 days ago on our show. There was a game literally every 4 or 5 days. The majority was every 4 days. It was seven games in 28 days, I want to say. It was, or 29 days. It was wild. And then after Inter Miami won the cup, and then 3 days later, they played the semifinals for the U.S. Open Cup. It's a ridiculous schedule to keep up. So, with that, I agree with Eddie. And then just real quick, just to put this to bed, this guy Danny hating on the Open Cup because it can grow the sport. No, I'm hating on it because everybody's telling me that I have to pick between Open Cup and Leagues Cup. If I have to pick one of the two, I pick Leagues Cup. I like it more than the Open Cup. I'd rather have both. Give me both and expand the rosters for Open Cup. But if you're telling me that I have to choose for whatever reason, I like the one where I get to play against other professional teams from another league than playing against the minor leagues. That's my only thing.
And we haven't even brought up the prices for this tournament. I'm a season ticket holder of the LA Galaxy.
Somebody asked, and they were curious. And I know that Kari and Eddie, your teams don't get to host, but maybe Tommy and Edgar, you guys can. So they wanted to know in the chat. They asked earlier, how are the ticket sales? Like, do you think are they suffering? Maybe Kari and Eddie have heard something. I don't know.
Well, here's the thing, right? They put us in a group with Chivas Guadalajara and San Jose Earthquakes, which is like a traditional rival for the LA Galaxy. So in both games, Guadalajara is going to be playing, and of course it's going to sell out. It's definitely going to sell out at PayPal Stadium, which is like a small little shoebox, right? And I'm pretty sure Guadalajara will sell out even if they're playing against, I don't know, some local high school out here. They're going to show up, right? Well, I was really curious, right? I was like, because I'm a season ticket holder at LA Galaxy, so I'm not looking at how much my tickets cost. As I just pay for my season thing, whatever. So I was curious. I looked it up, and I'm like, God damn, the most inexpensive ticket for Leagues Cup is $107, and that's to sit with the Galaxy supporters. If you're like you're run-of-the-mill Guadalajara fan and you want to go catch the game, you can go catch seats in the eastern sideline for as low as $220.
But are they selling though? Like those are the prices, but are they selling?
Oh, they're gonna sell, man.
Yeah.
I mean, Kari will tell you, like they're gonna sell. Okay, and what she said was right. Leon played here last year, and it was a great turnout. It was like 50-50 Galaxy fans and Leon fans at that game, and everybody got along really well. Galaxy and Guadalajara have a history. It's mostly amicable, but I know that they've thrown down in the past. So I'm just curious to see what the atmosphere is going to be like in the stadium itself. But my goodness, the prices are insane. I hadn't looked at them, and in about 10 days or so, I'm going to be traveling to North Carolina to visit my in-laws, and I entertained the idea of going to catch the Cruz Azul Charlotte FC game, and it just so happens that my flight is like the day of the game or whatever, so I can't go. But if I wanted to go to that game, I can't even imagine how much it's going to cost to see that. Oh, and by the way, Tommy, in your honor, I'm having some Crown and Coke.
All right.
But yeah,
so
it's too
all
much.
right.
I mean,
Yeah, man,
do you guys
prices are
think it's
wild.
worth it to pay that much for a game like this?
I was looking at Atlanta tickets while you're on there, and I was looking versus resale versus actual Ticketmaster tickets, and like Ticketmaster, the cheapest is $40 there in like the 200s. Now resale, you're looking at the cheapest seats $25. We suck right now. Someone was yelling at me that I didn't say we. I don't play for Atlanta United, but yeah, our team sucks right now. So people are selling their tickets cheap, trying to get rid of it. And the game's on a Friday night, so I guess we'll see how that goes. But if it's a good opponent that you get there and your team's good, tickets will sell. If not, it's going to look like a U.S. Open Cup game.
Eddie,
I knew that'd get you excited, you jerk.
Eddie, would you go watch Monterrey? Where they go? They go to Austin? Are you gonna go watch them in Austin? Where do they play? Pumas?
No. Texas is hot, and I don't do hot weather. They played LAFC here, but again, this was the logistics. I was hoping that they play at LAFC Stadium because it's right downtown LA. There's so much you can do, but they moved that thing to the Rose Bowl, and I hated every minute. The traffic is horrible. The place is horrible. I do not like that role. I know, Edgar, I don't know if you've gone out to the Rose Bowl when LAFC and LA Galaxy play. For me, it is awful to get into that stadium or to that stadium.
I didn't go both years because of that. I haven't gone both years because of that. And you can talk to both LAFC fans and Galaxy fans. They both admit it's just a nightmare to get in. It's a nightmare to get out. It's been a nightmare since '96 when I used to go to games there. And it's still a nightmare now. So there you go. Hasn't changed.
Yeah, but I mean, I paid for 3 tickets. I think it was about $200. I mean, I waited last minute. I was not going to pay whatever tickets they were doing, all that stuff. So I waited till the very last minute, and I'm like, okay, now I seen the tickets drop, I'll go. But yeah, I'm not paying that. I love Monterrey. I might as well just book a trip to Mexico and spend that type of money because it's cheaper. I mean, it's insane. But yeah, no, I paid about close to $200 for just 3 tickets. Went to the Rose Bowl. The game was worth it. It was worth the admit. It wasn't like a boring. Monterrey came back and beat LAFC. So I worth the price of admission for me. But yeah, those ticket prices, it's a steep price if you want to go there. But hopefully. And this is what Monterrey did when they played you guys in Miami. Monterrey had like the CONCACAF inside the season ticket package. When you were telling me that that's not a part of your season ticket package, that kind of surprised me because the only thing that Monterrey fans had to pay extra was like if they got to the semifinal and the final. But it's weird that MLS teams don't include stuff like that, whether it's U.S. Open Cup or League Cup inside your ticket pack, your season ticket package. It
is part of our ticket package, by the way.
Well, thank you. And I was just going to transition over here because Joe Kerr was asking, did you guys get first right of refusal? I'm going to ask Tommy. I'm sure you know some season ticket holders. I'm pretty sure you're not one. And Edgar, I'm going to ask you. Inter Miami, our tickets literally, I'm not exaggerating, doubled, and for some people even more than that this year. We don't get Leagues Cup included. We don't get Champions Cup included. Champions Cup, we didn't get first right of refusal. And for anybody that's watching, it doesn't know what first right of refusal means. They don't give you the opportunity, if you're a season ticket holder, to buy your own seat. You just have to be on there and be ready to buy the tickets when they go on sale. And good luck. There's a good chance if you have good seats, you're not even going to have an opportunity to purchase them because they'll be sold to, like, I don't know, some type of sponsor or a company or something. So that's how they did Inter Miami fans. They did us dirty. Now, Leagues Cup this year, they finally gave us first right of refusal, which means for this game on Saturday, I got to purchase my own seats. But we only have one game because we finished so poorly last year. This was probably going to be the only home game that we host all Leagues Cup. So, curious. Edgar, what do you guys get in your season ticket package before I go over to Kari to finish off this Leagues Cup thing?
For as much shit as we give the front office, especially Chris Klein, he's gone now, but Galaxy has always done well with the season ticket holders. We get all the home matches, we get exhibition games, we get Open Cup games, and we get Leagues Cup and whatever. The only time where they ask you, hey, do you want to buy tickets, is if, say for example, the team advances to later stages of the Leagues Cup and they're going to host a game, or if it's the same thing with the playoffs, it's pay as you go, right? But I was looking at my season ticket holder account just to confirm, but yeah, it's there. It says Chivas de Guadalajara, and I'm like, oh.
So the Leagues Cup game was included?
Yes. And now that I look at the
Son of-
prices, I'm gonna definitely sell my ticket, man. Got some scratch when I go to North Carolina.
Wow,
Buy me
that's
some
wild.
Bojangles when I'm out there. But yeah, it's included.
Wow.
It's always these tournaments have always been included. Like as far back as I can remember being a fan, it's always been there. And Open Cup, even like I remember in 2005, last time Galaxy went to the Open Cup final, my ticket was included for the final in my season ticket holder account. So
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
Galaxy takes care of the fan. Oh, by the way, the other thing that they do for us that I really appreciate is that if you can show them proof that you're gonna catch a flight to an away match, and you show them that you're gonna be staying at a hotel with a friend or family or whatever,
Don't tell me that they give you a discount.
No, they'll give you a free ticket to the game, and you get to sit with other Galaxy fans, and then you get escorted into the stadium with them, and you get escorted out, and they have a place where you can hang out with fans before the game and after the game at a bar, and it's awesome. I love it.
And Atlanta fans could opt out if they wanted, but then you're opted out of everything, so you can't just jump back in later and say, oh, you know what, they made it to the knockout rounds. No, you got to go to Ticketmaster individually. You don't get,
Oh yeah, you also get 20% off everything.
Oh, Edgar, you just ruined my night. Tommy, real quick, I know that I don't know if you guys get as much stuff. I know everything in your stadium is like 50 cents, like 50-cent sodas, 50-cent pizzas. Like it's if Kari and Eddie, if you guys have never been to Atlanta, they have the lowest concessions in the country. For some reason, they just give away the concessions. Yeah,
So
they literally they sell hot dogs for like $1. It's ridiculous.
Are they good though? Are they edible?
Oh, yeah, and the beer tastes the same. I promise you.
Okay.
They don't just fill it with a bunch of water later.
It's
No,
probably
great.
better than
Actually,
the $13 beers I pay for over here. Which, actually, I have not. I haven't paid for a beer in years, by the way. So,
well, I feel that because I went to the soccer game on Saturday, and then I got stranded in Atlanta for a couple days because of all the Delta mess. So I ended up going to the Braves game, and my food at the Atlanta game might have been probably like $24. My wife and I ended up spending $145 on food and alcohol at the baseball game 2 days later. So like it hit me hard. I'm like, this is like, how do you go from one to the other? It's ridiculous. But that's also how you grow the sport though too. You make it affordable to bring your family to the game, and food is a big part of it, because if you're taking your kids, they're going to want M&Ms, pizza, something and half. It is a nice thing. Makes it affordable.
I have a question.
Sorry, Danny. Just real quick. I want to piggyback off him because I'm going to tie this to soccer real quick, and we can maybe have a discussion about this. When I was in high school, actually no, since I was in junior high and I had an allowance, and then I had a summer job, I could afford to go to up to 20 Dodger games in a season. I would show up with my grandpa, and we like take the bus up there, whatever, the Dodger Stadium, and it was like $6 to get into the upper deck or in the outfield, and it was like $2 for a Dodger dog, which was the real nice ones, and like $1 for a soda. Even when I was in college, I had a girlfriend who was from Chicago, and a couple of times the Cubs were in town, and we were like, "Hey, you want to go to a Dodger game?" I'm like, sure. Like we had nothing to do, so we jump in the car, drive down the road. $6 to park, $6 for a ticket. Between the two of us, we'd spend like maybe $10, $15 on food. If I want to go to a Dodger game, and my wife was asking me, right? She was like, can we take our son to a game? I was like, the last time I went to a game, a friend of mine who was visiting from North Carolina was like, hey, I bought his tickets. Meet me at the stadium. I'm like, all right. I'll pay, he's like, I'll pay me back when you get there. I'm like, all right. We have him sitting in the Loge Low, which is the second level of Dodger Stadium on the third base side. And he's like, yeah, you owe me $170. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, that's how much the ticket was. I got it at a discount. I'm like, holy shit. No, and then I was like, let me go get a beer. And I go up to get a beer. And the cheapest beer I could find was $17. And I was like, oh my God. And then the rest of my family who are Nicaraguenses, right? I'm from Nicaragua. They're always wondering like, hey, baseball is it's in our blood, right? It's like, how come you're so big about the Galaxy and not about the Dodgers anymore? I was like, well, I still love the Dodgers. It's just I can't justify paying that much to go to a Major League Baseball game when I remember how much it was when I was a kid, right? And they were still good back then. But what I pay for in one baseball game would be enough to pay for my season tickets for an LA Galaxy entire year. So,
but the Dodgers have always been, at least as far as I can remember, they've always been that expensive. It's ridiculous.
When I was younger, yeah. I mean, when I was younger, like I said, like this is like, I mean, it's not that long ago. Like even in like in the 2010s, you could go to a Dodger game at the drop of a hat and be like, yeah, let me get in. It's not that expensive. But now I don't know how the hell they fill up the stadium because it is so expensive to go to a game. It's $25 to $35 for parking, just parking. And
that's cheap. We pay $30 up. We pay $30 for the League's Cup. It was $50 last year.
Wow. But for a Galaxy game, it's very affordable. And I like the fact that it attracts, fans that maybe would go to a Dodger game or to a Lakers game, right? Because Lakers games are expensive. Clippers games are about to get really expensive. The LA Kings got expensive after they won those 2 cups. So we get those fans, and the team has been good for a long time, and now they're getting good. And I'm not sure how much tickets to LAFC are, but I'm sure that they made them affordable enough for fans to just, go there on like middle of the week or on a weekend. So MLS is doing well by, as far as that's concerned.
For sure.
I just hope that it doesn't get to a point where like tickets just pop up too much.
Some people look, the Atlanta, I think, is really the driving force behind the way you should do it. And God, I was going to ask you about the concessions, but real quick, I saw Steve Munoz says that he makes his kids eat sopa before going to the stadium because he's not paying $10 for a stale pretzel.
That's awesome.
100%. And he said sancocho, sopa, caldo de costilla, any of them. Out of curiosity, like I was telling you before we got on, never been to Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
How is it going to a game in Mexico?
Oh, it's awesome. It's awesome.
Is that expensive?
No, it's not expensive. I think it depends. I think it depends where you go. For example, like, in when I go to a León game, well, obviously it's a much, older stadium. But I think when it comes to beer, it's pretty much the same all around Mexico. I think maybe Guadalajara might be a bit more expensive because what I paid for a beer there in León, which I thought the beer there was going to be a bit less than what I pay here in Santos, it was pretty much around the same price. But I think I've never been a big fan of stadium food because I think it's always a bit dodgy because you just don't know what temperature with, like, is it going to be good? Is it not going to be good? And then, I think, you just end up overpaying for, a torta, tacos, a gringa, all that stuff that you
can drink. Can you drink in the stands?
Yeah, you can drink in the stands. What they do is, for example, in Santos, you buy a reusable cup, and whenever you take that to any home game, and they give you a discount on beer as long as you have that refillable.
Oh, you get to bring that cup into the stadium?
Yeah.
Oh,
so each season they have like a particular cup that they use throughout the whole season. So when you buy a beer, it's like the beer price with the cup price, or just the beer price because you're bringing that your cup. And they're pretty cool collectibles, and then you can refill as much as you want. But I think it just varies, like I said, where you go. I don't know how it is like in Monterrey and Guadalajara, maybe a bit more, but I try and stay away from stadium food and just rather eat after the game, like some cheap tacos, tortas, because much better, eating after. But I will have a beer during the game.
Yeah, quick, about the cup thing, I got this at a USA game last year in Charlotte. If you buy one of these and you get unlimited soda the entire game. Now, my friend who lives out, for the game, right?
Not the season.
Here's the thing. My friend who lives out there, him and his daughter devised a way to sneak this into every game. So they just go, and a lot of fans do it apparently, and they just sneak them into the stadium and they just go to the, get as much soda as possible. If you go to Bank of America Stadium, which is where Charlotte plays, they have these watering stations. They call them watering stations, but it's like these big stations where it's just like, as much soda as you want from every like Coke, whatever, Dr. Pepper, I don't know, whatever, Pepsi products. So you can just walk up and fill up with whatever you want all the way to the top and then just go back to your seat.
I'm trying to think that Inter Miami is just failing because we just have a temporary stadium and things will eventually get better. That's what I'm telling myself. Eddie, would you like to throw some salt on Inter Miami fans' wounds with something from Monterrey that they do amazing that nobody else does?
a lot of their food gets on Foodie Scrans, like the Twitter account. Like a lot of their food gets on there, and it's just like so enticing. Like I remember a couple of months ago, they put up the chicharrones that they sell there, and it just got me craving, and I had to go get some. But yeah, their food always ends up on Foodie Scrans, so I'm gonna assume that's a good sign.
It probably is. All right, so let's go on to real quick. Saturday, the actual Leagues Cup this year starts.
Friday.
It starts on Friday. We play on Saturday. I thought everybody played on Saturday. Okay, so it starts on Friday. It's my fault.
It starts on Friday. On Miami. Come on.
I thought Saturday was a nice starting day. Who plays on Friday? It's not normal. What?
Like
sure, all right. So Friday. Who's playing on Friday then?
Atlanta and DC.
Oh, that's why you knew. Okay, so Friday it starts. Atlanta, DC. I don't know why that would be the opening game, but sure. What are you guys expecting from this year's tournament? Are Liga MX teams going to say that they were cheated again because they didn't have any home games, or are they going to take the ass kicking and just keep walking?
No, go ahead, Kari.
Look, I've already seen the comments, and I get that I'm complaining and all that. Look, I have the right to complain as a Liga MX fan. What they do upstairs in the suits and all that—that's their business. But I don't know, Eddie. I really don't know how my team's gonna do. I hope that I think when it comes to, at least for me, when it comes to Leagues Cup, like obviously I root for my team and I root for every single Liga MX team. As much as I dislike Club America, shout out to my friends from the Liga podcast, I do not like them. But hey, if they're the last man standing, I will root for them because whatever team they're gonna get on the other side, the MLS team, I want Liga MX team to beat them. So I really don't know. I feel like there's some teams that obviously in Mexico, the Monterrey, the Guadalajara, obviously the America, Tigres, all those teams, I expect them to do well and to go far as much as like Pachuca. I don't know what to expect from my team, to be honest. Let's go as far as we can. Hopefully get a win.
You guys are in the same group as Portland and the Rapids.
The Rapids, yes. Portland and Rapids.
So here's the groups. Okay, so you said you're not really sure. They're not really sure how or you said you're not really sure how Leon's gonna do. What about you, Eddie? How you feeling about Monterrey? Monterrey ended up with Austin and Pumas.
Oh, Eddie.
Well, I mean, they're winning. They won 3 out of their 4 games, but they're not it's not looking aesthetically pleasing. Our strikers, they haven't produced much. So, and like I said, we already have the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Like, this is the carrot at the end of the stick for this tournament, at least the way I see it. And Monterrey already has that. So I would feel like they're probably going to go with players that need to get minutes, go with young players that I really want to see. So if they are eliminated in the group stage, to me, it's not the end of the world, just because, the only thing I do think that, it's that long break after the group stage if you're eliminated. But I feel like they'll advance. I think Austin FC is right now on, they're, at least from what I've heard, that they're not that good, or at least their fans are not happy with the team. Pumas, they're all right, I guess. So just by sheer individualism that they'll advance. Yeah. But after that, I have no idea. I mean, just because they're not they're winning, but they're not playing well. I mean, I guess that's the mark of a good team, though, that they can win even though it's not pretty. But that's just my concern. I believe they'll advance past the group stage, but after that, I have no idea.
Well, I'm with you. I'm with both of you guys. I think the fact that you guys don't play any games in Mexico is a huge disadvantage, and that's why I can't imagine that you guys are ever going to be as successful as you could be if you were to host games in Mexico. I mean, I don't know if they're saying this because of the travel. Supposedly, Liga MX wants to make the American money when they come host games, but like you guys said, it's only the big clubs that get that following. I don't know why the whole tournament would be there, but I don't know. Maybe they should do like one destination for each group, and then they play both games in that one destination. I don't know. Eddie, you sounded kind of like Inter Miami fans also, where they don't really care about Leagues Cup too much this year. They kind of want the month or the 3 weeks off to kind of get healthy. Now I know your season just started, so I guess it's a little different, but I'm kind of wondering if Atlanta and Galaxy are in the same boat. Is the fan base for Atlanta like excited and wanting to win the League's Cup, or is this something that they're just like, if we win, we win. If not, it doesn't matter, and let's just get ready for the second half of the year or the last 9 games? Tommy?
So you started the season knowing that 2 of your better players with Caleb Wiley and Thiago Amada, they were going to be in the Olympics. So you knew that you had a few good players that weren't going to be in this tournament already.
Right.
Turns out both of them were sold anyways, so it doesn't even matter to that at that point. But Atlanta has said that they want to, get past. Obviously they're not going to say that we're bombing it here, but they were embarrassed last round. They got both games at home. DC, which they split the series this season, and is it Santos Laguna? Do I have that right? I think that's the other team, right?
Yes.
This is all blurry to me in here.
Santos Laguna, yeah.
Santos, yes.
Yeah. So they're also at home against that. So I think they can get. I think they can get past that round. I think they can do it. Again, they're without 3 of their top 6 players in there, but they got some rumors for transfers, so they can get out of the first round, get a transfer in, see what happens. At least get him situated with the team before the season starts, and me and Edgar's team play the first game back after Leagues Cup, and then we become enemies after that. But I think Atlanta fans have kind of written this off this year before even the transfers even happened. They knew their good guys were going to be gone.
Well, and the thing is, if from what I've heard from Inter Miami fans and from what I've heard from other places in other fan bases in the MLS, a lot of them are kind of indifferent about the Leagues Cup this year. And I think they might have been like that last year also. Like I said, the whole Messi influx gave this tournament a random boost that I don't think it would have had if Messi didn't show up. If this tournament goes that way as far as fandom goes and attendance and things of that nature, by next year, we might be looking at this like we look at the Open Cup, where people aren't really caring about it. And maybe we should get rid of it. If this year it doesn't get as, I don't know, the viewership or the excitement behind it, like, I don't know, because I'm telling you, Inter Miami fans, they won it last year, and this year they're like, yeah, whatever, we don't really care about it anymore. So to me, it's growing some weird indifference in the fan bases.
Well,
Tommy,
and what Kari said, what Kari said about as far as like the teams, going on the road. I mean, you're gone for a long time, right? Like you're away from your families, and like that's hard to begin with. But in soccer and just in sports in general, when you're the away team, like through Vegas and all of that, you are the underdog, right?
100%,
even sometimes, even if it's you're a heavy favorite and you're on the road, a lot of times, especially in soccer, you're still the underdog going into it. And that's just the way it is. So, and then add on not being home, like to see your families and things like that, like mentally for players, that starts to beat up on them too. Mm-hmm. Right. And when you saw teams getting down to the end there, you were hearing those stories about them missing their families and all of that. So there's the personal part of it that I think a lot of people don't think about it. It's not just the physical and all that. It's got to be taxing just moving around a country that you're not in most of the time. And, by the time you get to the end of it, it's like, I just want to go home. Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's not forget it's like they're in the most grueling part of the summer too, in some of the more humid states across the United States, right?
But that's the thing, like on the comments are like, well, it's hot in Mexico. Well, it's hot everywhere too. Like that's just comes with it. That's the challenge. Like not everybody gets to play where they want to play all the time. But that's just the challenge. Like if not, other teams in the world would be complaining where they're playing at. Whether, like for example, Liga Mx, like in the Xolo Stadium, it's turf. Every team, especially my team, we hate playing there away because we've had many.
What stadium? I'm sorry.
The Xolos de Tijuana Stadium.
Okay.
It's turf. It's the only Liga Mx.
Wow. I didn't know that they had any turf stadiums in there. Okay.
And we hate it. I mean, my team hates it because we've had, terrible injuries there. But guess what? I mean, we can't cry about it. We have to play and just, pray that nothing bad happens to our players when they go and play there. But I mean, they talk about, the humidity, in the Mexico City. I mean, it is what it is. I want to see, I guess, for example, like in the, obviously they're remodeling the Stick Up, but like, the game with Rayados in Miami. I mean, that on TV looked like insane in Monterrey, and I have I've heard stories about how they oversold tickets, but el ambiente, like, it was there. You know what I mean?
For
So
sure.
it's kind of like, I want to see that, like, have some games in Mexico, have people, like, in MLS, like, enjoy and get to see a different perspective of football in Mexico. You know what I mean? Like, it just feels different, to be honest. But
if Leagues Cup is going to be successful in the long run, I think eventually they have to figure out how to incorporate some games in Mexico. And I think some of the MLS fan bases would like to go watch a game over there. I would love to go watch a game in Mexico City. I think that would be awesome.
I remember I talked to some people at when we played FC Cincinnati. They enjoyed that experience, and I feel like
for sure.
What gets lost on this side is that the whole away experience, right? Like the whole going somewhere, and from from every time we play an MLS team, I would, like, whether it's in the comments or whatever, or in the Monterrey comments, usually it's always positive. So I feel like that gets taken away from people who maybe want to go down to Mexico and see a game, whether it's at the Azteca, Akron, Monterrey, or another team. I know a lot of, like, when I saw the CONCACAF Champions Cup final, like, there was, like, a good number of Columbus Crew fans who went down to Hidalgo to when they played Pachuca. So, I mean, that's the whole experience. It's not just, I get it financially. I'm the money matters, but at some point, you also want to have those, I guess, aesthetics of having those away games.
Away days are so fun, though.
Yeah.
Like, as a fan, I think it's awesome. If you could keep it, without getting into, any type of stupidness, like you just saw with Colombia, Argentina here in Hard Rock not too long ago. If you can keep away from that type of stuff, like, it's away games are awesome. But all right. So real quick, I didn't get to Edgar. Edgar, Galaxy Leagues Cup this year. How you feeling?
Before I get into that, I just want to address something real quick that's stuck in my craw. You said that we're going to look at this tournament like we look at the Open Cup, honey. That's how you look at the Open Cup, not me, man. I love the Open Cup.
Yeah, but I mean, in the aspect of nobody goes.
Oh, people go over here. They'll go.
You're a liar.
Not everywhere.
Speak for yourself.
You're an absolute liar. There's no way that Galaxy is hosting Alabama, Birmingham, and anybody's going.
Oh,
I know Alabama, Birmingham, Sacramento. Sacramento. If Sacramento goes to play in the Galaxy,
they did.
Don't tell me that on a Wednesday.
And they beat us.
But don't tell me that it's going to pack the stadium.
Did Alabama hurt you at some point in your life, Danny?
Yeah.
I'm just curious. It's like the sixth time I've heard Alabama.
Okay, I'll tell you real quick why I always bring up Alabama. Because when Messi first announced he was coming on June 7th of last year, we played against Birmingham, Alabama a day or two later. And for some reason, I'm not sure what's going on in these Alabama people's heads, but they all purchased tickets because they thought that somehow Messi was going to show up and be there. Like, why? And they were really upset and talking a lot of crap that Messi wasn't there. So that stuck with me. I don't know too many USL teams, so Birmingham, Alabama is my go-to. So that is why you've heard Birmingham, Alabama. Yeah, that. So that's why I.
Oh, the comment section. Oh, the comments.
Oh, dear God.
Oh no, yeah, I'm not putting those comments up. Come on, guys.
No, you asked about Galaxy and Leagues Cup. I can say for certain that the fan base is really not too excited about Leagues Cup, and for a couple reasons. Primarily is because for the first time in many years, LA Galaxy is actually put together a very competitive team.
Yeah, got a nice pack.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of fans some fans are completely sold, like, yeah, we're back. Me, I'm a realist. I'm like, we couldn't beat LAFC. We're not back. Until we beat those guys, we're not back. And so, I want to make sure that the team stays healthy, especially as we get into that final stretch, the last couple of months of the season. And how difficult is that in MLS? You can ask Tommy, Eddie. You mentioned you're an LAFC fan, right? It's the hardest.
No, he's joking. I'm not an LAFC fan.
Oh, okay. Double checking it. But
got him.
I mean, you know how hard it is, and MLS is a marathon, right? It's not like Liga Mx where they play a certain number of games and then they break it up into 2 seasons. It's like one long marathon. I always tell people the roster that begins at the start of the season is not going to be the same at the end because of transfers, because of injuries, because of whatever. So, a lot of fans are not very excited about the tournament. So a lot of people were saying, just tank and take the break. But then I look at who we're playing against, and it's like we're playing the Smurfs, San Jose Earthquakes. We call them the Smurfs, right? Playing the Smurfs, and the Smurfs really, really suck this year. They're bad. They're really bad. They're running away with the wood spoon, and so
you beat them and you basically make it. Yeah.
I mean, can LA Galaxy just go in there and tank against them? And not really. Like I think the fans are gonna demand, hey, you guys better at least beat these guys. Come on, just don't lose to the Smurfs. And then you got Guadalajara coming in, and you don't want Guadalajara to come in and destroy you in your home stadium. So
you guys are all in.
Air.
Right? Yeah, you guys are in.
But all this for the last couple of weeks on our podcast, we've been talking about looking forward to seeing some players that don't get playing time finally get to play in Leagues Cup. Last season, LA Galaxy was in really bad shape heading into Leagues Cup. We got to see some guys get some playing time in Leagues Cup that afterward helped with the team trying to make it like a small run, which in the end fizzled out. But at least we got to see that there is some depth there. Now, mind you, that the team from last year is a complete different from this year. It's like night and day. But more than anything, I think what fans want, what they're demanding is please stay healthy. In fact, fans did not want Ricky Puig to go to the All-Star game because they don't want him to get hurt. They don't want Gabriel Peck to get hurt. In fact, that people were encouraging fans, do not vote for any Galaxy players. Do not vote Galaxy players into the All-Star game because we don't want them to get hurt. We want to make sure everybody stays healthy. So I don't know. It's really weird.
So
nobody
is no
cares.
one here excited? Yeah, no one's excited.
Yeah, nobody's excited. Nobody's excited
I feel
for
like,
the cup.
I feel like
Nobody wants
once
the cup.
games start happening. I mean, Kari, I don't know if you remember when Cincinnati played Chivas and it was delayed. If you follow like Spanish-speaking Liga Mx Twitter, so many people had a lot of money riding on that game, and a lot of people lost because I feel like once the games start going, and if there's like some excitement or something like interesting happens that kind of captivates the audience, I think that's gonna be it. But if it's just boring games with no animosity, I remember Nashville and America, like that one was a really good one. So I feel like if these games have some type of excitement where it's like, oh, hey, everybody turn to that game or everybody watch this game, it will start picking up steam. But if it's just boring, nothing, right, no animosity, no nothing like that, then that's where it's like, okay, yeah, it's gonna fizzle out eventually.
What was the game there was a game that there was like 37 penalty kicks. Like it just went on and on.
Oh, it was Tigres and Vancouver. Tigres and Vancouver, where it went to like
that gets draining. Like too many penalties. Like I get the oh, someone has to win, but like you get tired of seeing too many penalties. And I bet they get bored. What's the point of playing the game if you're only gonna go to penalties every single game? Like
well the final went to 11 penalty kicks.
Lucha.
Yeah, that's fun though. I love penalties.
But every single
I like once it gets to the goal. Once it gets to the goalkeeper, it gets exciting for me. Like once you have unless it's like Volpe or somebody like that's designated. Once you get to like the end where it's like the goalkeepers, like for me it gets exciting. It's like okay, now who's gonna screw up? For me at least. But I think if you get those for me, like if I'm not watching Monterrey, if you're asking me to watch another team that I don't follow, if there's like some type of animosity or there's some type of like okay, I gotta watch it. Like I saw with America and Nashville, for an example. Okay, that's where it's like, okay, you got me. But if it's just dull matches, nothing going on, you're kind of losing me for like trying to get me to watch these other games that don't partake to my team.
Well, I'm hoping that this tournament somehow catches our interest. Like I told you, Inter Miami fans seem to be a little indifferent about it.
All it takes is somebody poking the bear with Luis Suarez, and then everybody's gonna get a chance. Like I feel like that's what's gonna happen. So if somebody has to provoke Luis Suarez or somebody like that, and then you saw it with us. You saw it with when we played. It took some people getting like into the end of the game with Dan Ortiz. All these like that's where like I kept listening to my Inter Miami podcast, and yours is too. I was on it. That incident kind of like sparked it, where it's like okay, now like there's more to this than just playing football. You get that extra drama, the theatrics that I personally love.
I love it also. I love the storylines. I love the theater. And like I said, I hope it. I honestly think that any fan base, as soon as you get to like a quarterfinals, all of a sudden everybody's invested. It's like, all right, F it, let's go. But until then, like everybody's kind of just watching, I guess. I don't know. Well, we went a lot longer, so I want to apologize to all the people that came on. Eddie, Edgar, Tommy, and Kari. I know I said 45 minutes, and then we went 30 minutes over. So I'll cut it off here. Unless anybody else has anything else to say, I want to give you guys the chance to plug everything. In the description, you will find the links to their channels and their social medias in case you want to follow. Well, don't follow Tommy one time. He's horrible. But Edgar with the Galaxy, Eddie Monterrey, Kari, Leon. So let me start with Kari. Go ahead. Just let everybody know where everybody can find you.
Well, for the Lions Den podcast, we cover Club Leon in English. We try and pod once a week. My co-hosts, Carlos, Louis, and Javi. Carlos and Louis will be making the trip out to see the first Leagues Cup game for Leon. So they'll be over there. If there's any Club Leon fans that want to meet them and take a picture with them, more than welcome to. We're to year 5 on this Club Leon English podcast. So
nice.
If anybody wants to dip into Liga Mx, Club Leon, we do have fun. Anybody's more than welcome to jump into our chat and kind of have a go at us sometimes. But yeah, you can follow us at the Lions Den podcast on Spotify, YouTube, and X. You can follow Club Leon EN, which is the official unofficial Club Leon English account that Carlos, my co-host, runs with all Club Leon content. It's not the official one, but we started it before. Actually, he started before the Club Leon actually came out with their proper English official account. But ours is better. Carlos does a great job. But yeah.
All right, Eddie, where can everybody catch you?
You can follow the Rayos 90 podcast at Rayos 90 on Twitter. Have a website, rayos90.com. All the new stuff is on there. Took a break because I had to help cover Copa America, but starting to get back going on that. I am not as organized as Scotty. I podcast whenever I can. If you follow the account on Twitter, I usually do a lot of GIFs, content, clip content, all that stuff. Although if the games are on Apple TV, I don't think I'm able to do that unless I do some streaming. But yeah, if you're interested in following Monterrey, that's all the stuff you can go there for anything in English. The club has an unofficial Twitter account now that they brought out in English. They follow me, so they're finally piggybacking off what we started in 2019. So yeah, if you want to follow Monterrey, go ahead and look all that stuff up.
Kari, Eddie, are there a lot of English podcasters for Liga MX?
So I think me and Eddie kind of started around the same time when a lot of Liga MX, what's called English speakers, fans that wanted to start one. So obviously, me and Eddie have been on each other's podcast before. So besides ours, there's the Eagle Eye podcast, which great friends of mine that do Club America. Chivas del Norte that do Chivas. And Eddie, am I missing anybody else?
I think there's a Tigres one too, if I'm not mistaken. So I believe the more
from Tigres. I've invited Luis from Tigres.
And I think that's it. I think that's about it. Pretty much
it.
I think there's a Cruz Azul one. So yeah, the most popular teams, more teams with bigger. Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty
that
much
makes sense.
those.
Yeah,
that's interesting. I didn't realize that there were English podcasts for Liga MX teams, so that was really cool. Okay, Edgar, let us everybody know where they could find you. Let's talk a little Galaxy.
Yes, actually, I've been covering MLS since 1997. I had an all-access press pass when I was a college newspaper writer out here in LA, and I'm one of those people that's been an MLS lifer. I was there at the first game in '96 with the Galaxy, and I've been covering the team all these years. I've covered U.S. soccer, and I used to be a writer for Dove magazine. I interviewed hundreds of celebrities over all the years. So, but more than anything, I love covering the sport. I love meeting people. Through our podcast, News Across the Galaxy. You can see it right there in the description. I've been able to work with these younger fellas and kind of be like an MLS historian with them. And I was one who postulated the idea of hey, why don't we have a podcast from other teams come onto our show, and then we learn about their club's history, their culture, and then we introduce them to our supporters. And it's been a huge hit. I've had fans come up to me at the stadium and say, hey, I really like that episode where we had Louis from the Lions Den podcast, who's a big Timbers fan, talk about the history of the Timbers and, his affiliation with them. Or I had the guys from Charlotte earlier in the year, and people were really happy to learn about them. And especially when we have traveling supporters, they learn about where to go, where to hang out, what to eat, what kind of atmosphere they're going to receive at the stadium, that kind of stuff. I had Kari before. Kari and Louis we had him as guests last year for the Leagues Cup, and that was awesome. People love that episode, and we're really looking forward to having Tommy and the Scarves and Spikes guys come on as guests later this year. We even discussed the idea of having a hot test challenge. I don't know if I can do that anymore.
Get the other two. Don't get Tommy.
Oh,
Y'all hate on Tommy too much.
Tommy's my boy,
right?
man.
Tommy's my guy.
I woke up at 9:30 for this. What are you talking about? You're so mean to me.
And hopefully, later, it's in the near future, we can have Eddie come on as well, in case Galaxy ever plays Rayados. And hey, now we know about the battered herons. I heard they're really tasty, especially when you fry them, right? So anyway, thank you so much for having me on. And if you guys want to learn more about not just LA Galaxy, but about MLS in general, look us up. I'm actually in the middle of writing an article about all the new MLS kits, and it's not just about the kits. I went and spoke to different fans. Like I spoke to Danny, for example, about what their thoughts were on the kits, and I'm offering a lot of history because every one of these kits has some kind of a history attached, not just for MLS, but for soccer in the U.S. in general. That's coming out soon, so I'm going to be posting that on my Twitter page.
Yeah, we didn't have any history. Ours was just a money grab.
Damn.
We have no history. But you could put Messi on the back, so you got to do it so you can sell it, right? Tommy, let everybody know where they can find you, sir.
Thankfully, not at the Atlanta airport. Thankfully, not there. Scarves and Spikes, we started a few years ago. We do spaces after every game. So I'm always going to call it Twitter Spaces, not X Spaces. That just sounds dirty when you say it that way. Yeah, after every game, we do Twitter Spaces. It's a ton of fun. Everybody comes on, we moderate. So if you're playing us after the game, you want to come on, talk a little bit of trash, either way, join us. And then our podcast every Monday and Wednesday. We talk about the games, get other podcasters on, and yeah, it's been fun.
One quick thing. Florida Man said that Edgar's kid is ugly. I think that is the nicest kid of the archive. Honestly.
No, there was another comment that looks like he's been wearing that since 1997.
That's the comment of the night.
I actually contemplated wearing my original 96 Kobe Jones kit, but I left it in the closet.
Kobe Jones. Whoa, there we go. I gotta end it there. I want to thank everybody for joining. That was really fun. Episode number 1. We appreciate you taking the time. Sorry we went so long. But when we started having that conversation, I didn't want to cut it short. So I appreciate you guys hanging out with us. And for everybody in the chat that joined in, even though hopefully we can get a more variety, because I think we were a little heavy on Inter Miami fans in the chat. So hopefully we can keep getting some more people. But regardless, it was fun. We appreciate everybody that did join. And that's it. I thank you again, everybody, for joining. That was a good time. And let me just sign off here. If you're listening on audio, thank you for listening all the way to the end. Please leave us 5 stars, comment, review, all that good stuff. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you for watching all the way to the end. Please like, subscribe, share it, tell your friends. There's a new MLS podcast out. And for those of you in the chat, like always, you guys are the best part of the show. We appreciate you hanging out with us for the last hour and 24 minutes. And we'll be back next week with another panel talking some more MLS. And until the next one, have a good one.